Garaqueo is another simple development of the trapping, only this time we grab the clothing as opposed to the person. Obviously there is no set fixed way of trapping, we just need to watch and study what people really do when stressed and then develop it. Of course, depending on the situation, this will determine the kind of thing that we do. We've just found that by developing the simple yet instinctive grab, we gain a lot of practicality in comparison to the amount of physical time invested. The Canqueo differs slightly from that of the Garaqueo, in so much as that we grab our own hands as opposed to the clothing of the opponent. The result is pretty much the same, we trap them. Grabbing ourselves or the opponent, we have but one objective in mind. Unlike a lot of typical trapping techniques, the Canqueo is not a passive trap. On the contrary, it's an extremely ballistic trap with the intention of inflicting damage. This is always our constant challenge. How do we create enough damage whilst in motion to stop an aggressor? In these next clips we see Justo mixing the two traps, plus adding a couple of strikes once the opponent is down. It's important to always develop things this way, as it really makes us think about what we're doing, because if we don't take the visualization side of things seriously, it's impossible to shadow the movement correctly. You look how Justo adds the simple punch, knee, etc. at the end of each sequence. The work is easy really, but we must nevertheless spend the time developing the technical side of things before we jump to the application. Now we start to develop the directional driving of the takedown. We can see that Justo is using the Garaqueo and then pulls the opponent forwards, driving them face down. Justo then develops the other three basic directions, left, right and backwards. These simple developments are energy based. We need to understand why we develop this exercise and not just learn the technique. As we constantly keep stating, we need to find and develop the ability with each new thing that we learn, and not just the technical, as fights are not technically fueled, they are emotionally and instinctively driven. We can see the difference now as Justo uses the cancuello. He now grabs his hands to make the trap as opposed to the clothing. He also continues to develop the redirecting of the opponent. We need to be careful with any training that involves the neck. It's not rocket science, and if somebody is kind enough to help us in our training, then the least we can do is respect their body by not injuring them for no reason. I like the cancuello as it's a style of trapping that is in common use, yet not exploited to its real potential. It's an extremely dangerous form of attack when used with good understanding of the objective, which is what? Trapping, I hear you all say. Well, yes, trapping is the subject, but in reality the objective is total destruction of the opponent. Now we continue on with our development of the basic weapons once the opponent is down. Watch as Justo follows the basic formula of punch, punch elbow, punch knee, and finally punch and kick. If we always follow our process, it becomes seemingly easy to develop at a much greater pace than normal. That's because the brain has absorbed the process and can apply a particular method of learning to whatever subject it's studying, without the need of being shown the way each and every time. These two basic takedowns are the ones that Justo and me have found to be moderately successful, even with a low level of understanding. It doesn't mean, of course, that they will work every time, far from it. They are just a part of the big picture, but are quite effective if you get hold of the opponent in the first instance. This is where our training partner, if he's any good, should really be helping us now. Blasting through the ranges and levels on a daily basis will, without a shadow of a doubt, give us the kind of attributes we're all searching for. Developing all the major basics is quite a tough challenge really. A lot of people we speak with seem to think it's so easy, but in truth, it's far from easy if we want true ability. You look how simple the process starts to become. If we want to get good at something, then we need to build it step by step. Justo and me have observed and studied many systems over the years, and our conclusion is that many people become lost in technique. They lose real sight of the objectives. For this reason, we need to develop a strong mind so as not to become distracted from our goal. Sure, we want to learn many things, but I think it's safe to say that we would also like to have the ability to apply the things that we learn. I really like this process of developing the levels. You look how simple yet totally radical it is. We just keep the same baseline going and then start adding and developing different weapons and abilities. We always say, everything functions and nothing functions. It depends on us. There are some simple words that we hear a lot when we're out and about, and they are, yeah, but I wouldn't do that, I'd do this. Or, yeah, but I'd counter you with this. I don't know if you have ever heard these words, but let me tell you one thing. If you do, then just smile and walk away, as this kind of person lives in cloud cuckoo land. The moment is the moment, and we have no idea what is coming next. Our instinct is our only saviour, and if we haven't been developing this, then we may be in for a big wake-up call. Each time we take any of our new work and throw it into the two-man predator exercise, try to keep one thing in mind. And that one thing is, what would really happen to me right now if these focus pads were blades? Scary thought, huh? This will help us keep a little balance on the situation. Empty-hand fighting is a disaster anyway, but weapons is a totally different dimension altogether, and one that in truth has no real answers at all. The reason I talk about this right now is I've just been watching some video footage of some self-defense experts talking about knives. In truth, it made me cringe. I don't know how the people have the nerve to talk about the knife as they do. One particular sentence that stood out for me was when the guy said, "Just keep your hands up and pretend you're frightened." Pretend to be frightened? That line left me totally speechless. I also hear a few people saying, well, what would you do then, in a situation involving multiple opponents and weapons? Our answer is, I have no idea. Past experience has taught me one thing, and that is, the moment and the instinct gives the answer, nothing more. If we have developed instinctive ability over the years, then clearly we may stand a much better chance of survival, as opposed to somebody who has never experienced any kind of physical violence in their lives, as the adrenaline dump in many cases renders the unprepared totally incapable, hence a bad answer is usually the final outcome. So let's all try to keep these things in mind as we continue our journey of investigation into the world of urban street application. Till next week, have fun.